In 2022, I lost my best friend of 27 years to alcohol addiction. He was 54 years old, my boy T. Scott, and I hadn't seen him since before the pandemic. He was in and out of rehabs and halfway houses and even a homeless shelter at one point. I was in very good touch with him, and it was becoming obvious that he wasn't going to live a long life. I didn't know when it would happen, and when it did, it destroyed me. It gutted me. And part of me thought, this is what I do now. I have to get back to, this could be my life again. Anywhere I go, and I don't drink now, it's just such a flex. It's such a much more incredible, real experience.
Welcome to Guardian Recovery's podcast, where each week you'll hear from real people navigating sobriety and mental health in raw, unscripted conversations about failure, resilience, and transformation. More than 20 million Americans are in recovery from addiction. Millions more are silently fighting battles within their own mental health, often at the very same time. This is the Recovery Guide with Michael Herbert. Melissa,
Michael.
Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and just want to know a little bit more about you. I looked at some of your podcasts online, and you appear to be very strong online. What is something that the audience doesn't know about you?
Well, that's a great question. I've been up here, I'm online as the Sober New Yorker now for a very somewhat short amount of time, only about 2.5 years. So if you were going back further, something you should know about me, I did have a different presence online during the pandemic, and that was one of a seamstress / mask maker, face mask maker. When the pandemic came down, I brushed off my sewing machine, got out some old fabric, and went to town making masks. Mm-hmm. Coincidentally, it also was a time when my drinking ramped up in the pandemic. Mm-hmm. I was alcohol-free for about 4 months right before the pandemic. And then in New York, I'm a New Yorker, so it was kind of ground zero. And on March 12th, 2020, everything started shutting down, and you remember those NBA games were being canceled, the NCAA playoffs. I'm also a big sports fan, were getting canceled, and everyone didn't know which way was up. And the one thing that kind of saved me in that time was having a creative outlet. I've always been a really creative person. I started drinking again, slowly at first, but eventually ramped up, and it got to the point where I deserved that drink after 8 hours of sewing all day. I'm sure many people can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get sober?
So I had always, for about the past 10 years, I'm thinking back to 2016, I had taken some breaks here and there, often doctor mandated. She would notice that my liver enzymes were elevated. She'd say, take a break from alcohol. I'd feel amazing, but I'd always try to dip my toe back into moderation. And
so let me, before you go there, so the doctor would tell you to take a break from drinking. Mm-hmm. The doctor didn't believe you were an alcoholic or had an...
No.
How did she not know?
I guess back in that time, I didn't even really know. Like the first time that happened, I didn't know what liver enzymes were. And I didn't know it was associated with drinking. You can put 2 and 2 together, but and it was at a time in my life when I knew, there was a specific stress going on that I couldn't control. This happened to be with my daughter and her mental health, and going, drinking, using alcohol to control my feelings was what I was doing. So I'm a rule follower, and I remember one of the first times she said that, I did take that break for 3 weeks. It was over Labor Day weekend, and initially it really scared me because Labor Day weekend and parties and camping and this and that. But I did it anyway, and I felt really, really good. And I lost a few pounds, and I slept better only in just a few weeks. So there were times within those 6 or 7 years that I really called myself sober curious. And I never identify as an alcoholic. I don't use that label for myself personally. You do you. When I got to the point in 2022, well, the pandemic, my drinking was ramping up, as I said. In 2022, I lost my best friend of 27 years to alcohol addiction. He was 54 years old, my boy T. Scott, and I hadn't seen him since before the pandemic. He was in and out of rehabs and halfway houses and even a homeless shelter at one point. I was in very good touch with him, and it was becoming obvious that he wasn't going to live a long life. I didn't know when it would happen, and when it did, it destroyed me. It gutted me, and part of me thought, this is what I do now. I have to get back to, this could be my life again. I had those 4 months before the pandemic. I thought this could really be it for me. But I went the other direction. I ate too much. I drank too much. I sat around, and it started to go to a dark place. And in the summer of 2023, when I started waking up in the morning wondering if I should stay in bed all day, I knew that alcohol was to blame. I knew it. And I knew I couldn't do it anymore.
This episode is sponsored by Guardian Recovery. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction or mental health challenges, Guardian can help. Visit guardianrecovery.com or call the number below for confidential support and guidance.
So I went back to my doctor, and I told her I thought I was drinking too much. And she took my blood work. She didn't jump to conclusions. I have the most amazing doctor, NYU Langone, Carmen Chitu. I mention her name on every podcast that I speak on. She was so supportive and so she just held space for me and not judgmental. And we talked about naltrexone, and, she mentioned AA and, different community groups. And she didn't jump to conclusions. She took my blood work. I got those results within 24 hours, and they were atrocious. Everything was elevated, including my liver enzymes were the highest they've ever been. If anyone knows that those two numbers, your AST and ALT, those are usually like a 5 to 40 range. One was 311 and the other one was 195. So they were really, really high. But besides that, cholesterol was high. My weight was high. My blood pressure, my A1C, I was almost diabetic. And you know what? I got those results, and I remember exactly where I was. And I flipped into, I got to do something about this once and for all. And so I did. And it'll be 3 years.
And what is it that you did?
I stopped drinking.
Just
no,
I'm done.
I had always listened to sober podcasts and read Quit Lit, listened to Quit Lit. So those first 3 months, and I know community had always been a part of it, but I'd never really found community before when I took my breaks. So I made an appointment. She said, come back and see me within 3 months. If you can't make these changes on your own, I have to intervene with medication. She was going to put me on a statin, probably blood pressure. And I just got busy. I stopped drinking. I started walking. I started changing my diet. I listened to podcasts. I devoured anything. Sober Instagram was a big thing, still is. And after 3 months, I went to see her and I was a completely different woman. And all my numbers were the same. I dropped 27 pounds. I felt like literally $1 million.
Wow.
And I left that office and I said, how do I keep this going? How do I keep this going? And I was getting emails, like I said, Sober Instagram. I was following some groups, some people, and I dialed into this all women's sober group called Sober Sisters. Megan Wilcox is a coach. She's up in Boston. And I signed up for one of her retreats that was 8 months in the future in Vermont. I was like, I can drive to that retreat. It'll keep me sober. I had no idea that it came with membership to her online community. And so I joined these meetings. I turned my camera on. I started sharing. I was a big blubbering mess. I was very raw, very vulnerable, but I knew it's what I had to do to really lean into everything that I had been wanting to, accomplish with my sobriety. And, from there, it just snowballed.
Let me go back to something just to get some clarity. You said you don't identify yourself as an alcoholic. You don't use that term. Is there something you identify yourself as, or do you just say, I used to drink and don't anymore?
I identify as part of my whole platform is you do not have to hit a rock bottom to change your relationship with alcohol. You just have to be willing to admit you're better without it, that it wasn't working for you, that your life has now opened up in ways that you never thought could be possible when you were drinking. And that's the message I bring to people personally. I interview on my podcast all sorts of different people with, some very deep rock bottoms. Years ago, you're of a certain generation. Oprah. I watched Oprah all the time as a teenager, young adult. She had someone on years ago who talked about having a shallow bottom. And I always resonated with that it was, or a sandy bottom, right? Where it fluctuates. It fluctuates. Now, I live in New York, right? So there was no DUI. I don't drive. I had a part-time job. I have a very healthy relationship. All of those things were intact. This gray area drinking is also something I talk about, that from the outside, I looked like I had it all together. Yeah, maybe I was getting a little chubby and swollen and, but I did not, my life was not a total dumpster fire. What I was feeling inside, those mornings when I started waking up, wondering what would happen if I stayed in bed all day, that was not like me. And so it was getting progressively worse. Now, if I hadn't done something about it, I could have lost my family. I could have chosen to drive one night outside of the city when I shouldn't have. You know what I mean? So my whole thing, like, you don't have to wait for that. Yeah, I had some really bad numbers. I had some bad-ish health diagnoses, but I mean, I've talked to people who have wrecked their cars and killed people and served 18 years in prison. So it never got to that point with me. And a lot of women, especially my age, that 45 to 65, they're that sandwich generation, right? Where I'm trying to launch my kids. I'm caring for my elderly parents. What happens to you? You lose sight of who you are, and the loneliness creeps in, and it's a really slippery slope, and it doesn't have to be.
So, but again, if someone were to ask you, "Are you an alcoholic?" you'd say,
I would say no. I'm. I use the word sober, but I also use the words alcohol free.
Hmm.
I'm a
Okay.
non-drinker.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay. But
yeah, that's
you know the
that's my
numbers.
identity.
Yeah, the numbers do say that. At least something that I found out. There are more people that just kind of stop than
Hmm.
go through a treatment program or AA or this, that, and the other. And most of the people who go through AA, 75, 80% of them have to go through treatment first. So, what I like about what you're saying is that there are many paths to this idea of abstinence, sobriety, alcohol, whatever you want to call it, that it's not one size that fits all. And I think oftentimes people are judged. I mean, I can imagine that there are some people that believe, oh, she's really not going to make it the way she's doing it, or she's really not like us.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Which
And
is
there,
why I
mhm.
share my story so publicly
Yeah,
and so boldly.
yeah, because there's so many people that are I'm going to call it judgmental
Hmm.
and rigid in the way that it is. I mean, I'm in recovery myself, and I guess if I followed everything that they told me to do, I'd probably be dead now, or crazy, or not in the program anymore.
Hmm.
I did what was best for me with the commitment to abstinence.
Mm.
But I don't have to do this, or I don't have to do that, or I don't, commit to abstinence and try some things out to see if they fit. I mean, even in recovery in the beginning, I wasn't ready for a sponsor.
Right.
I had, I think, terrible relationships with men. I didn't have a great relationship with my father. So now you want me to add this person in that's going to be, in my mind, directing me and telling me what to do? And
Right.
somehow, if I don't do it, I'm doing something wrong and I'll use again. Well, I proved that wrong, but oftentimes it also was a projection on my part. I thought I knew what somebody else was thinking and telling me what to do, and it was
Hmm.
probably more my own fear and shame,
Hmm.
um, that got in the way of it. So let me ask you another question, about this idea of your recovery. When you got sober, when you stopped drinking, what part of your old identity was the hardest to let go?
I think hands down that I needed to drink to socialize. I needed to drink to relax. I didn't have a ton of stress. I mean, parenting, although actually that's not true because I was a stay-at-home mom for years, and that is a ton of stress.
Full-time
And
job.
it's a fun job, yeah, but it's
I said
much.
full-time.
Oh, full time, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a full time job. So having alcohol be there for me as a way to relax, a way to have fun, a way to de-stress, a way to grieve my best friend dying. It was just classic what alcohol is there for in general for people's lives, and they're all limiting beliefs. Like, would I have fun as a sober person in a group of people? um you know eh, yeah, actually the answer is yes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we're socialized to drink, smoke weed.
Yeah,
It's all a part of the social aspect, and we're
100%.
not really taught how to do it without it.
Right, right.
And so everyone gets into that habit of having a drink, smoking a joint, or
Hmm.
doing something to be amongst these other people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
So
also that there's something wrong if you're not doing it.
definitely, you get looks, people look at you sideways and
Hmm.
wonder, you must have a problem, right?
Hmm.
And I think early on I learned that that has more to do with them than it does to me, for me.
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
when you can see it for what it is, when I first was alcohol free, and I mean, people noticed. First of all, I dropped almost 30 pounds. My energy was through the roof. I'm in my early 50s and I'm bouncing around like I'm 25.
Hmm.
And people were noticing, people at my gym, and I have always been very outspoken about it. I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't drink anymore. I gave it up. And if they want to ask more questions, they can, but oftentimes I would get people that say, "Oh, I only drink on the weekends."
Hmm.
Like, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you drink. Why? What? This was clearly making some people uncomfortable
Hmm.
because it holds a mirror to them. It
Yeah.
holds a
Hmm.
mirror to them. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. When I think about people who are in recovery and people who are not,
Hmm.
who has the strongest reaction to your way of being now around alcohol?
I mean, I know lots of people in recovery. I also don't really use that term for myself. I don't
Hmm.
consider myself in recovery. I
Hmm.
feel like I am in rediscovery, quite
Hmm.
honestly, rediscovering who I am without this in my life is the way I
Hmm.
prefer to look at it.
Yeah.
But I know that people who identify as alcoholics or their recovery, they've been to rehab, they've been to the whole 9 yards, do not feel threatened by people that have not gone that route. I have found that in the alcohol-free, sober communities, it's a very non-judgmental place. It's a very welcoming place. We all get to where we are through various, paths,
Hmm.
and we honor that. We honor
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And people that don't don't identify as a recovery alcoholic, whatever, for the most part, they're so supportive. They are
Hmm.
so supportive of me and what I've been doing.
Yeah. So it's good that you get the support from both sides.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Recovery gives us our lives back, but also asks us to grieve. What have you had to mourn in your abstinence or sobriety?
Quite honestly, not a
Mhm.
damn thing.
Yeah. Hmm.
I have not mourned. I have not missed drinking. I have not missed, because for me, the act of the 20-minute dopamine flood that came with sitting down with a bottle of wine or a glass of vodka is so minute
Hmm.
compared to how big my life has become since getting rid of it.
Hmm.
And I keep those memories of how shitty I felt, those mornings waking up wondering if I should get out of bed. I keep those really close to me.
Hmm.
I have a whole folder of photos on my phone called Old Fat Drunk Pics.
Uh-huh.
Because these pictures pop up on Facebook. You know these,
Uh-huh.
although you've been sober a long time,
Yeah.
but you get sober nowadays. Oh, it's a Facebook memory. Oh
Mhm.
shit. I'm cradling a huge giant bottle of wine for a
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a screenshot of that, and
Mhm.
in it goes to my old fat drunk pics
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
those pictures, I need to recall those. I need to look at that as, and some people really don't like those pictures and they delete them. They delete them. I say no. I say bring it on, because
Mhm.
this was me. This was a woman that I am now choosing to honor because she really helped me get to where I am today.
Mhm.
And this woman sitting in front of you right now is a total fucking badass, Michael,
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
case you haven't noticed.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And so your title in New York is
The sober New Yorker.
the sober New Yorker. How did you come up with that title?
I
I
love
mean,
that you put the New Yorker on it.
mhm. I'm from
That
Connecticut, so
I know,
yeah.
I know, I love it. How did I come up with this title?
Yeah.
Great story, great cute little story. January of 24, early in the morning. I'm up early, because that's what happens in early sobriety. You get your sleep, it's like condensed, and then you're
Mhm.
up and have energy. And I've been thinking about starting a sober Instagram. Sober Instagram was a big tool for me in my early sobriety, lurking and being a voyeur with these sober profiles.
Mhm.
So I had a list of names. A lot of them were taken. The
Mhm.
Sober New Yorker was not taken. So I started a profile. I didn't finish it. I put my name and a picture of myself, and I just left it there. Well, because I'm very green with Instagram, or I used to be, I didn't know that once you started a profile, you can't
Mhm.
just leave it. Like it will go out to people you know, and they will see it and wonder, is this really what I think I'm seeing? So a friend of mine texted me, and she took a screenshot and she said, "Is this you?" And I said, "Yeah, it is. I
Mhm.
just haven't finished setting it up yet." But then I said, "You want to be my first follower?" And she said, "Yeah." And she was. And incidentally, this was a friend that has been supportive of me in my attempts at sobriety before. So it was
Mhm.
really kismet that it
Yeah.
that it was her that reached out
Mhm.
to me first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how
Mhm.
it started.
Yeah.
And from there it turned into my coaching business and my
Mhm.
podcast. And I'm actually in the process of having it trademarked, which is really exciting.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if there was a woman sitting in front of you the day before you got sober,
Mm.
what would you say to her? And what do you think her reply to you would be?
A woman who is not sober herself yet,
Yes,
or okay.
not sober.
The day before, I mean, the day before I got sober, it was just one of those awful, awful feeling days.
Uh-huh.
And it's really interesting because that weekend I was at a restaurant and we had a waitress that was all tattooed and kind of had a shaved head, and we were ordering drinks, and we said, someone said, between these two cocktails, which one's your favorite? And she said, "Oh, I don't know, I don't drink." And it was that weekend, and I remember looking at her like, that's a woman who I could be sometime. She doesn't drink alcohol, and
Yeah.
she's saying it out loud and proud and matter of factly. And 2 days later was like, that was it for me.
Yeah.
That was before I went to see my doctor, but I knew that seeing my doctor, I just knew that this had to be it for me. So
Mhm.
I would say, I think this is it. I think this show is over. We've had a good run, longer than
Mhm.
cats.
Yeah. Uh-huh. What do you think she'd say back to you?
I think she'd say, if she was a friend of mine, she would say, "Good for you. I
Mhm.
believe in you."
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you said that you're a coach,
I am. Yeah.
and can you tell me a little bit about your coaching practice?
Absolutely. I have women that like that all the time that come to
Mhm.
me on their day 1 or day 15, or maybe they've tried other routes and they can't do it. And such a big part of my story is the reinvention process. I think that
Mhm.
we lose sight of who we are as women, as we're caring for everyone else except us, and our self-worth goes down the toilet. And I'm, as a coach, unlike a therapist, I can really call on my own experiences,
Mhm.
and I can, say what worked for me, what didn't, what I started to believe, what my mindset was, my
Mhm.
identity. So there's a lot of that. It's boundaries. Oh
Mhm.
my God. So much of my coaching has almost more to do with creating healthy boundaries than it does to removing the
Mhm.
alcohol,
Yeah.
because you have to have that. You
Mhm.
have to have those to protect yourself. So, I mean, I'm a theater person at heart. I love the visualization that when we're still drinking, we're sitting in the wings of the theater backstage,
Mhm.
watching the show unfold. And then when we decide to step into the spotlight, We do it with a cast around us. We do it with props.
Hmm.
And once we get downstage center and hit that spotlight, there's support behind
Hmm.
you,
Yeah.
and you're really stepping into your own.
Hmm. So you have kids.
I do.
How have they been affected by your sobriety?
Oh, they're two of my biggest fans, actually. They're old enough to, have remembered when I drank. I
Hmm.
got sober when they were 20 and 16.
Hmm.
So, there are, and they're a big reason that was always there for me of doing it besides myself. But,
Hmm.
there were times going out to a restaurant, like we wouldn't go to a restaurant because there wasn't a bar.
Right.
And hearing my daughter say to my son, yeah, we couldn't go to that other restaurant because mom needs a bar
Hmm.
is very, not a great memory,
Hmm.
not a great memory. So they have seen the work I've done. Listen, they're kids, so they think some of my content is pretty cringy,
Hmm.
which means I must be doing it all right.
Yeah.
but
Uh-huh.
um, but my son, especially, he's 19, so he was 16 when this happened. When I got sober, he, I, we were sitting across each other at dinner recently this past spring, and he's gone through his own self-development and launching at going to school, and it was a big scary transition. And I've always talked about how proud I am of him to him.
Hmm.
And he looked across from me during this time and said, Mom, for all the times you tell me you're proud of me, I need you to know how proud I am of you.
Wow.
And as a mother, when something like that happens, you just try to keep it together. But all you
Mhm.
want to do is like just bawl your eyes out. So he's a big fan. He
I got to
really
tell you,
is.
that's the right feeling to have, to bawl your eyes out when
I
you hear
know.
that for your son, because he's saying, Mom, I'm proud of you,
Mm,
that you've done a good job.
so
This is
good.
important stuff. And I wouldn't try to hold that together. I would just feel that, just be free to feel that.
Yeah.
Boy, I mean, because I got a little chill when I hear that,
Mm,
and I had just done a podcast with somebody else,
mm,
and whose father said, father had passed away. What would he say if he knew the man that I'm proud of you? And
mm.
it just brought him to tears, and it almost brought me to tears too.
Yeah.
To know that somebody sees you and acknowledges you,
Yeah.
and when you do it as a mom, just because you kind of like you do it because, listen, this is what a mom needs to do, or this is what I need to do. But when it's actually seen,
Mm.
it really is powerful,
It's
you
really
know?
powerful. And it
Yeah.
opens up communication about their drinking and or weed use, and
Mhm.
it opens that up, and being very transparent. And I don't worry about my kids the way, they were not the kind of drinker I was early on.
Mhm.
And my son, I mean, yeah, he had issues with weed in New York. Oh God, that's a whole story. They're selling weed in every bodega in the corner in New York City. But it's an ongoing conversation, and it's real honest, and it's curious, getting curious about the kind of experimentation your kids are doing, and not, don't do it because that's how what I had, and it didn't
Yeah.
work.
And everybody has to go through what they go through. But I got to tell you though, New York. I was in New York, and I was in Canada.
Hmm.
And I have smelled more weed in both of those places than when
Even
I
in
was
Canada?
smoking weed. I
Yeah.
mean, it is literally everywhere. It almost feels like we've gone too far with this,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but people are going to have to find their own path around it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
I mean, and I'm not going to judge anyone, but if someone's smoking weed at 8:30 in the morning, where does that take you for the rest of the day? right? Like, you
I mean,
know,
where it used to take me was back to bed, you know.
yeah, or to the back to the bodega for, chips and
Yeah,
pretzels.
for the munchies. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
But yeah, it is a huge thing in New York. It still
Mhm,
is. Yeah.
mhm. So what is the future though for Melissa and the coaching and the podcast? Talk a
Uh,
little bit about that.
well, the podcast is has yeah, I was always super passionate about talking, performing, interviewing, hearing stories, hearing people. I've always been a people person.
Mhm,
So that has been a passion project of mine. I've been doing it over 2 years. And it's
mhm,
now getting to the point where people listen to me regularly. If I get a discovery call from someone, I say, "How did you hear about me?" "I listen to your podcast."
mhm.
"You're a New
Yeah,
Yorker." "I'm a New
yeah.
Yorker." That seemed like it might be a good fit for
Mhm,
coaching, so there's more of that happening. And something really exciting that I did recently with a partner of mine, we hosted a sober retreat in New York City
Oh, really?
in April. We had 10
Uh-huh.
women from all around the country come to New York City for a long weekend of living in, experiencing a place. Because listen, people come to New York and they party. That
Mhm,
there's no doubt about that. But doing it without imbibing,
mhm,
and forming really fast, strong relationships with other sober, badass women,
mhm.
and also seeing the sights,
Yeah.
and riding the ferry,
Mhm,
and these incredible, seeing a Broadway show, like picturing yourself center stage in your
mhm.
own alcohol-free sober life as you're watching it unfold on Broadway
So
was
wa
just incredible.
was the retreat, were you all living together or
They were living in a hotel
okay.
in Manhattan.
Mhm. Yeah.
And myself and my partner Rachel, we live in Manhattan already.
Mhm,
So the beauty of something like that for people visiting New York, we take care of everything.
mhm,
We're picking you up. You don't worry about navigating the subway. We can do that
mhm.
with our eyes closed,
Yeah.
seriously.
Mhm,
So it gave them time to take everything in without worrying about what are we going to have for lunch?
mhm,
What are we going to, how are we going to get uptown? It was just absolutely incredible. And we're
mhm.
planning more of those in our future for New York and other destinations.
Yeah. So you're the sober New Yorker, but
I
when I'm
am.
listening to you, you don't have a New York accent. You have a
So,
more non-regional accent. I can't even tell where you're from
oh, that's
or
good.
actually where you're born.
My acting teacher in Wisconsin would be proud of that.
Oh, okay. So
That
you've
I
done
have shed that.
mhm.
Oh, don't you know? You
Oh
know that.
god, I'm glad
Oh,
you got rid of
oh.
that one. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I studied acting in college, and
Mhm.
I had an acting teacher that literally shook it out of us. So
Yeah.
when I go back to visit any friends or family in Wisconsin, it will creep in.
It comes
But
back. Yeah.
yeah, and then, New York, right. I think just with talking experience, acting experience, you tend to have, the phonetic dialect. It does creep in there once in a while, though.
I
So,
mean, I don't hear it. I was considered having a non-regional voice, but I can hear that Northeast. Even though I'm from Connecticut, I didn't
yeah,
pick up the Massachusetts part,
mhm. It was more
but
New
I picked
York.
up the New York part,
Yeah,
probably because
yeah,
'cause I'm
yeah,
from New Haven, Connecticut. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's there a little bit, but for
So
the
do
most
you
part,
do any acting?
I don't. No,
No.
not in some years. But I have gotten back to dance, which is
Mhm.
really, really lighting me up and filling me with joy these days.
What
I
what
take
form
it
of dance?
musical theater,
Mhm.
jazz. There's
Yeah.
a dance class that I've been taking for over a year now, led by a former professional dancer at a little studio in Chinatown on Wednesday
Mhm.
nights.
Uh-huh.
And it is just so joyful and
Yeah.
so fun, and it's a big part of my life, and people wanna talk about it all the time. You'll have to follow
Mhm.
me on Instagram. There's a whole
Okay.
bunch of videos.
Absolutely. Yeah. Uh-huh. So what other practices have you added to this life of sobriety that support it?
Mm.
What are some of the so you have the class that you take. What else are you doing that supports this new way of
Exercise has
living?
always been a big
Mhm.
part of my life, even more so since I stopped drinking. So,
Mhm.
walking, kickboxing, you know, some, weightlifting classes at the gym. Like, community has always been a big part of my life,
Mhm.
whether it's at the gym or dance class, but just being active, just,
Mhm.
keep moving your body,
Mhm.
because as we age, you rest, you rot, and I don't want to rot. I want to
Yeah.
keep moving forward.
I always tell people this body has to last me a lifetime. So
Absolutely.
what do I have to do to keep it going?
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
what about, do you engage in journaling or meditation, yoga?
Not really.
No,
I've
none of the
never,
3.
no.
Those are my top
Um,
3, you
I
know?
know. I mean, the meditation, I feel like meditation is different for everyone else. For to
Mhm,
sit and listen to something. I am more of an active meditator. So,
mhm,
meditation for me looks like a power walk, listening to a podcast or
mhm,
Quitlet or something that is going to inspire growth in
mhm.
myself.
Yeah.
Um, yoga, I like yoga when I do it. I don't go out of my way to do it.
Mhm,
And journaling, gosh, I've never, in college, I did it a little bit a long time ago, but it's not really one of my go tos. It's
mhm,
not. I'm more of a, I mean, I want to talk. I want to engage. I want to
mhm.
be active in that way, and that helps me. That helps
Yeah.
keep me
Mhm,
going.
mhm. Okay. Do you travel much?
I love traveling. Love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
What's the most interesting place you've been, and what did you do there?
Um, well, my daughter graduated from college in 25, and she went to school. She was on a full track scholarship to Villanova. She was really quite a disciplined kid, still is. And upon graduation, she's also my theater buddy. I've never been to London, and it's a big theater scene, the West End.
Mhm,
So we went to London for a week, and
mhm.
we saw, I love this, 8 shows in 6 days.
Really?
We
Wow.
saw 8 shows, and we still had time to visit Notting Hill for a photo shoot, Buckingham Palace. We still had time to run around. We did a lot of shopping. And we did it all without alcohol.
Mhm.
Even she'll drink somewhat when she goes out with her friends, but it wasn't an option. We sat in the pub and had fish and chips and saw other people looking at each other just drinking and not talking.
Yeah.
There was a big football game at the time
Mhm,
when we were there, and they were partying in the streets,
mhm.
puking, just next level.
Yeah.
And young kids drinking beer with their dads, and
Mhm.
seeing that cultural drinking anywhere I go, and I don't drink now. It's just such a flex. It's
Yeah.
such a much more incredible real experience, because you
Mhm.
really get to experience the place you're visiting up early, going at it, eating the rich, diverse food, meeting the people. And it's so liberating. My husband and I went to Italy for our 25th anniversary, didn't have a drop of
Mhm.
anything to drink. You don't
Yeah.
need it.
Uh-huh.
So I've been to Bali on a sober retreat. Highly recommend Bali.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I travel every chance I get, and I'm a really big fan of doing travel without drinking, and then
Yeah.
just flexing about it.
Yeah. I have a friend in Bali who, does some retreat work over there. He's a recovering person.
Nice.
He's from Long Island. He's been there for, quite a few years. I think he permanently lives there. Yeah.
Have you been?
Yeah, I've been to Bali twice.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just came back from Ethiopia, and one of the things that really stood out for me, I didn't put a lot of thought into it. What I didn't really notice people drinking, there
Mm.
was one of the tour guides had a beer
Hmm.
once, but I didn't notice anyone really drinking. I certainly didn't see anyone drunk.
Hmm.
And I also was pleasantly surprised to be in a country where the culture isn't smoking cigarettes.
Ah,
I just, I just do not listen. I'm an ex-smoker, so I'm probably the worst person,
yeah.
but I do not like the smell of smoke and
And
being
there was a
around
lot of
cigarettes.
that in Bali. There was a lot of
Oh,
that in
I can
Bali.
imagine in Bali and
Yeah.
in London. A lot of people smoke
Yeah.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's rare, smoking. It's unusual to see real cigarettes these days. In New York,
Yeah.
it's like almost everyone vapes.
Everybody vapes now. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
modern smokers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
We'll
Yeah.
see where that takes them.
Yeah. I don't, listen, I'm glad that vaping wasn't around when I quit,
Yeah.
because people seem to think that they quit smoking and now they're vaping or they're doing the Zyn packs or whatever they're doing. It's just a whole lot of replacing one thing with another versus
Right.
just being done with it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been a great conversation,
It
and it's
has.
been great to get to know you. Hopefully, you'll follow me on Coach Michael Herbert at I think I'm on TikTok and Instagram,
Okay.
and I certainly will follow you where.
You can follow me on Instagram, The Sober New Yorker. I do
Mhm.
have a TikTok. I just started it, but I'm not really doing much on it. To be
Uh-huh.
quite honest, the rest of my family has TikTok, and we share a lot of reels,
Yeah.
particularly cat videos. And
Okay.
when the Knicks won, we were sharing a
Oh,
lot
that
of
was
Nick's
quite the
videos and
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So it's mostly Instagram, but also my website is thesobernewyorker.com and my podcast, The Sober New Yorker. It's the whole brand.
And where do people find you for coaching?
The best place is probably through my website, thesobernewyorker.com. You can leave me an
Hmm.
email there, and but Instagram as well. You can DM me, and I'm always really good at getting back to people.
Great. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
Thanks so much,
joining me today,
Michael.
and it was nice getting to know you.
It was great getting to know you. Really appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. Take it
Thanks.
easy.
Bye.
Bye.